Nastasia Johnson works as a 911 operator for the Austin Police Department and was honored with the Telecommunicator of the Year award for the Texas chapter of NENA in 2024-2025 year. Nastasia serves her community by helping to assist callers with their emergencies each day, being a calming voice in the night when people are having their worst days. We have asked Nastasia on to talk about her experiences. This is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I'm your co-host, Gary, and today we have a very special guest on. Nastasia, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you today.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yay. We've been working on getting you in here. Seriously.
For like a month, but we're here.
Yes.
Yep.
And it was well worth the wait. So you've been a 911 operator now for about 2.5 years. So, and you've had ups and downs in that time, of course, as anybody who's done this profession for any length of time can attest to. I guess kind of wanted to start off by asking what really drew you to the profession. Like, where did you hear about it? Were you like, oh man, that Halle Berry movie is amazing, I want to do that? Or like, where'd you come from?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I went to college in Lubbock, and I was like, I need a job when I graduated, so I became a paramedic. But Lubbock it's a dusty town. There's not much to do once you graduate, so I started applying for jobs everywhere. And Austin was the first one I could hear back from, because I was like, there's no way I'm driving an ambulance in Austin. I'll wreck, we'll lose a patient. I couldn't. And so I found the dispatching application. And at the time, I thought we did everything. I didn't know it was just police. I thought we were doing police, fire, and EMS. But once I got started, I was like, oh, this is just police. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see if I like it. Because I almost went to EMS. I was like, I'm a medical girl. Like, what am I going to do with the police department? But, I got through and I was like, oh, I actually love it here. We don't have a script. I can say what I want. Like, this is nice.
Well, maybe a little casual, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, because it's not, unlike some agencies, we don't have the strict protocols like you have in EMS. EMS is, incredibly scripted. It's, for the most part, it's pro QA. I'm sure there's others out there, but that's the one I'm most familiar with. And it is that, tell me exactly what happened and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There is no deviation from it. But there are agencies out there that have police protocols, which just, we got to find somebody who has those, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around what would it be like to have police protocols where you have to read the script on a police call. I can't wrap my head around that.
It's impossible. I could not imagine having the script doing what we do.
But they're out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said you absolutely, you got here and you loved it. You decided to stay. I'm curious to know was there an event? Was there a call? Was there a day or situation that you kind of said, okay, all right, I can hang. I can stay here.
After like my first month, I was like, wow, this is actually, because I did EMS dispatching too when I was a paramedic. We just flipped back and forth. I was like, this is actually really nice. I can have a casual conversation, still get the information I need. And once you've done it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it's just, it's like you can do that. I don't know. I liked it. It clicked for me.
So the reason we're really here, or the thing that caused Gary and I to be like, we got to get Nastasia on the show, was you took a call that was not your average call. Obviously, we have to be mindful of, information, but can you kind of give us an idea of what that call was that caused you to win was it the NENA chapter? I think it was the NENA chapter, the Texas NENA Telecommunicator of the Year. what was that call about?
So the call was a suicidal subject. She was preparing herself to jump off of the highway, but she wanted to negotiate in the process. She wanted us to call somebody on her behalf so that she could tell that person how she felt. Otherwise, she was going to jump. And so that was pretty much the call, which turned out to be 4.5 hour conversation, just trying to get her to calm down. Um, and I think the reason why I won is because of the lack of education I had, but was still able to execute well on a call and keep her calm.
Okay. So, okay, help me understand. When you say lack of education, what do you mean?
So, and I'll just be honest, I feel like we're told everything we're not supposed to say when it comes to talking to suicidal subjects, but we're not really told what to say. It's very limited on what it is that we can say. Now, ironically enough, about 2 weeks before that happened, I took a crisis negotiation class, and her name is Michelle Bullock. She's a
Mm-hmm.
APD
Yeah.
um, hostage negotiator, and we went through this scenario about erratic callers who will not negotiate with you, who are very demanding about what they want. And that class gave me a lot more insight than what classroom training taught us, like how to identify emotions, how to keep the caller engaged, mostly like word choices, and being careful with our wording when talking to these people. And that training, I think, helped prepare me for the call. But even then, it's still a basics class. So my knowledge and my skills are still limited. But I had just enough.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, thank goodness. I remember when that class came to be and we realized that it was an option for us because I don't know about other agencies, but prior to that particular call, if it was offered by the sworn side and it was opened up to the non sworn, to civilians, which is not something that happens a lot. So I remember seeing that, and when that email came through, we jumped at the opportunity to send as many of you as we could, having no idea that it was going to come in so handily.
Yeah. Everything she taught us, I applied in that class, on that call. Literally everything, the resources she
Nice.
gave us, I pulled them out. I applied to that call, and I'm like, I'm so grateful I took that class because I don't know if the outcome would have been the same, or if I
Yeah.
would have been stuck, or if I myself would have been scared.
So one of the like issues with that call, you said it was, it was longer than 4 hours, which is a
That's
long time
insane.
to talk to anybody on the phone, especially in sort of a high stress situation where you're trying to keep the person from killing themselves. So
That's insane.
you know, like people will sometimes have 30-minute, 45-minute calls where they're trying to talk down somebody, but like 4 hours is really on a whole other level. So how did you kind of uh, get through that? Because like you can't really take a break, you can't walk away from your station, you can't like hang on the line, I got to go to the bathroom real quick, because
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
yeah.
That was as soon as I walked in that day and I was like, she been on there how long?
Mm.
And she hasn't. My first
So,
thought was bathroom.
when I took the call, I thought I was only on there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. It did not feel like 4 hours until I started seeing a shift change. And I was wondering, I was like, why are people asking me if I'm hungry? I was like, why is Tommy asking to take over? I was like, no, I got this. It really wasn't until I got that email saying how long the call was. And I was like, oh, I thought this was only 45 minutes. So I think I was just scared
Wow.
even think, but it did not feel like 4.5 hours.
Because yeah, it really increased our bill with AT&T that month. So can you try and keep it shorter next time if you could, please? Because we ain't got that kind of cash.
We're a municipality. You know, we ain't got no money.
Yeah.
You've reached your quota.
So, yeah, no, seriously. So, as you're talking about the class and how it helped you, I mean, everybody permission was obtained ahead of time to go in this direction. Was there anything about that call that resonated with you on a personal level?
On a personal level, yeah, I felt her pain. I really did. And so I felt extremely empathetic towards her. And I think that's what helped throughout the call too, because everything I told her I genuinely meant.
I
I
see.
did. And I think that's a skill that a lot of 911 call takers need, because if you can empathize with the caller and they can feel it, then I think that can help the call go smoothly. And so I've been there where my heart was broken and I wanted to do some crazy things, but I didn't. But
Hmm,
obviously,
hmm.
she was in a completely different mental state. And so I genuinely, like, that all resonated. When she kept saying, I'm hurting, I'm upset, I was like, okay, let me identify with that. And, you know, so those parts stuck with me.
So,
So when you go ahead, Gary, sorry.
well, just for a point of clarification, so you said that you empathized with the person, and you found that to be very helpful. Now, are you meaning empathized in the sense of like you were at the same time feeling the level of emotional distress she was, or is it more like a sympathize, where like I understand the level of emotional distress?
I would say both. I understood the level of distress that she was going through, but I also understood the emotions she was going through, because obviously not as extreme. I still felt the same emotions that she was going through, because I had recently gone through a heartbreak and things like that. So I know what it feels like to feel that emptiness or that sadness from somebody lying to you. Um, I really did.
But you were able to identify, empathize, sympathize without actually taking it on and allowing it to cloud or color the way that you manage the call. Would you agree with
Right.
that?
Absolutely, because that's something that they teach us as paramedics. That's something that they teach us in classroom. You still got to be able to separate yourself and focus on the
Hmm,
caller
hmm.
and their needs. Because it's not about me. It's not about anybody else in the room. It's about me and the caller. And one of the things on that call, like, I would say, I know that you are upset. And she was like, no, stop saying I'm upset. I'm in pain. I'm hurting. And so those were the things that I was able to stick to, which helped throughout the call. So just being able to listen and empathize with what she was saying and to take
Hmm.
key notes on that, is what helped.
So I'm hearing that you did not, when you said word choices from this class. So, and because I didn't take the class, I will as soon as I'm able. But when you say word choices, when she said stop saying I'm upset, so you immediately went to use the word that she used to make sure that she understood that you identified or believed what she was saying and not minimizing what she was going through. Because I think sometimes, because I know sometimes when we're taking calls, it is, and one of the things I struggled with was separating too far,
Mm-hmm.
trying to maintain my composure and I was so dead set on that that I almost forgot that I was talking to a person on the other end of the phone. It became more like a call to manage rather than what I believe you're saying is you are helping a person through their crisis.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
There is a difference, and this is what we were taught in negotiating class. Whenever you're talking to these people, the first thing, the fastest thing that you should try to identify is what exactly they're feeling. And they gave us this word circle chart. So you have like anger, and then it goes down to like, okay, upset, sad, and like the flow chart keeps flowing. And so you have to be able to identify what exact emotion that they're feeling, so that the caller understands that you understand what it is that they're feeling. If they're not feeling sad and they're angry, they want you to know that. So as soon as I was able to identify with her exactly what she was feeling, I was able to ask my other questions. And so I think that's the main point, being able to identify what the caller is feeling and not just making assumptions.
Nice. Nice. Do you have anything, Gary? Because you know me, you got to jump on
Sure,
in because
sure.
I have like 15 of them going around in my head right now.
That's for perfectly fine. So when you were on this call, you said that it felt like it was much faster uh, to you than it was actually going, because you said it was like felt like 45 minutes and it was actually almost 5 hours. So
Yeah.
and like
It's
I
just
think it's really great that you had all those materials from the class you just taken. You kind of got to use them and like pull them out. Did you find that there was any like of your coworkers around you? Were they offering you any assistance as well, or tips?
Yeah, so C3 was sending me messages.
C3 is the crisis counselors that we use in the city. For those that are unaware, sorry. Please continue.
So C3 was sending me messages, and some of the questions they were asking me to ask were helpful, but then it got to a point where it wasn't helpful. Like, I know that we are taught not to bring religion into it, not to bring in, well, think about your kids or other people. We're
yeah.
taught not to do those things, and C3 was telling me to do those things, so I didn't do those things, especially with this particular subject because I knew she didn't care. Nothing mattered to her
Hmm.
at that moment. Even when I did mention her kids, she didn't care about them. And so I was like, no, mentioning God or anything else, she does not care. So
Hmm.
when the hostage negotiators came in, it was kind of they were coaching me through it. So that helped a lot. I was very relieved when they showed up. Um,
So tell us about that because, uh, to my knowledge, that is the first time in all of my years that I can recall any suicidal caller or any of that type of thing that where they've actually come in and really come alongside to help. What was that? How did that even come to be?
so in the call, I think the first responding officer got there. He or she saw that she was on a ledge. And so I think they were trying to tell me to hang up so that they can call. And she told me, if you hang up, I'm gonna jump. And I was like, I'm not hanging up. And so the negotiators who were on their way to the call were like, okay, we're going to head to C-Tech. And it got there really fast. And I was just like, hey, I'm over here. Y'all come over here. I was like, I'm right here. And so they came in and they were just telling me what to say. They introduced themselves. They were very calm. Um, and they were helpful. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say they were extremely helpful because I feel like the conversation, I mean, after 2 hours, it just becomes redundant.
Yeah.
It's clear what you want. Um, and so they just kept telling me to kind of say the same thing and use a lot of the I words, mirroring and paraphrasing techniques.
Hmm.
So
Active
remind me.
listening, basically.
Mhm.
So when you were talking
Okay.
to her and you had the the hostage negotiators come in and physically sit with you and help you throughout the call, and I remember it was kind of crowded over there at that point because I think was it two or three of them that came in. It was yeah, and I mean like that must have just been exhausting because not only are you talking to this person who's suicidal for
Yeah.
like 2 hours at that point, but I mean you've also had tons of messages back and forth with dispatch, with the control center, with the crisis counselors. So you're kind of the linchpin that's coordinating all of this communication with this person.
Unreal.
So all of these emotions and stresses are just kind of going through you. Did you feel like any sort of like a buildup? Like I'm starting to be like I need a break, I got to get out of here, or anything like that, or was it just really kind of I'm staying with this lady until this call ends, basically?
Oh, that was my plan. Tommy came over to me and she was like, are you sure you don't want to go to the bathroom or get something to eat?" And I was like, "No." I'm adamant. I wanted to stay with her because I wanted to make sure I didn't want there to be any type of break and then she jumped. So I didn't care about anything else, nor did I feel pressure. I didn't feel any type of pressure. I do remember
Wow.
in the call towards the end, I did cry just a little bit because the officers in the call said she put both of her legs back over the edge and she verbally told me, "I'm gonna jump." And so I was like, I don't want to hear that. I was like, I don't want to hear that. And like, I was empathetic, like I was really feeling her emotions. So I was like, I wouldn't have blamed myself because I know in situations like this, when people make up their mind, they make up their mind. But
Yeah.
I just didn't want to experience that. I didn't want that for her because I know this is something that she can heal and get past through. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Wow. It's amazing to hear you say that, because I've been on some long calls in my career, but nothing close to that. I've had, a handful of suicidal callers that those calls have stayed with me. I think it's pretty safe to say that this is one you will never forget.
ever, ever, I will never
Wow.
get this call.
Yeah. Yeah. So for anybody that's listening, she did get down safely. And to our knowledge, she's still alive and well today. What was that like when you were finally able, to get closure? How did the call end, or how did you know it was done? Because we know she didn't jump.
I think Dorcas texted me. It was somebody from 219 text me and like, because I remember after the call was said and done, you came up to me and you were like, "You're done." You were like, "You're done. You're going home." And I was like, "Okay." And I
I
went
think
to
I
the
said, no,
lake.
hold on. I did an Erica-ism, and I was like, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. You're done.
Yeah,
You, you're not
basically.
taking not one more call. You out of here. Doodles. Bye.
And so it was morning, and so I went to the lake, and I was like, "Let me just go to the lake and reset." And so I got the call, and I remember I cried. I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, I didn't know how that was gonna end. I really didn't. With some suicidal subjects, when they're about it, and then when they just want somebody to talk to. And with her, I truly didn't know. I did not know if she was to sit on the ledge. I mean, with both legs hanging over, I was just like, man, like I was scared that if they got closer, she was gonna jump. And so when I got that relief text message, I was like, I felt all the tension roll off of me. I felt good. I was like, okay, I can go on about my day now and just actually relax. Because I was gonna call in like an hour or two and be like, is she okay? But I got the text and it was fine.
So you had to, actually, now that you say that, you're right, because at some point, I think the officers said, um, go ahead and, I don't know if they said hang up, or you had to follow a direction that they gave you, right, to end your portion of the call,
No, so she
or
did the
no?
line disconnected.
Ah,
That's how
okay.
I finally got off the phone. The line disconnected, and I think they were just gonna try to call her back. But yeah, the line disconnected. That's the way I got off the phone.
And if I remember
Okay.
correctly, it was when you were there on overtime, wasn't it?
Yes, it was overtime. It was one of those
That's not
long.
funny, but
I had like 20 hours of overtime that week or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So, you're already kind of emotionally used up at that point, and then you have like this giant call, and you're like, man, this 4 hours of OT ain't worth it.
I wasn't even supposed to be here, kind of
You
thing. This
know,
isn't even my shift.
the 10 a.m. shift, and I always brag about the 10 to 2. I'm like, those are breezy hours. It's nice, it's chill. And then I think she was like my second call of the day, and I
Hmm.
was like, okay.
Well,
But it is interesting because, like you said, I wasn't even supposed to be there. There's so many times, you know, when people are called to do things, and it may not be something that they were supposed to be there for or necessarily planned out. And that's why it's always, I think, really critical to be prepared, mentally, emotionally, physically, to handle, especially like in emergency communications or any first responder job, because you never know when you weren't supposed to be there, but there you are.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yep. I've had a lot of those moments in my career as a first responder.
Yeah, it's true because you've been so in between this role and the previous role, you've been a first responder now a little over 4 years, right?
5 years, because since 2020.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. So you really live this. So basically, you live this life. You know what this is. This
Yeah.
was not, you didn't have to come to grips with what it is because we talk about that a lot on the show, about what it's like when people come into the center that they typically are not first responders before, don't have a background in first responder lifestyle, and denied vacation days and work life balance, and trying to um have an identity outside of the work that we do, which I think I was brilliant in segueing into the fact that you are not just a first responder, you do something else on the side that allows you an outlet. Because
Hmm.
we're always talking about a healthy way to balance the work that we do and the crap that we take in all the time. What do you do? What's your outlet?
So I'm a writer. Writing is a big outlet for me. Any emotion that I feel or even real life experience that I go through, I can write it out. I'm also working on a short film and I'm an event planner as well. Doing those things, doing those big projects, it pulls me away from work and I'm not just work ready.
Yeah. And so you are a published author, right?
Hmm.
Come on, girl, plug. I'm trying to help you out. Plug.
Yeah. You've got millions of
The name of
viewers
my
here.
book The name of my book is Every Girl Deserves Her Flowers. It's actually, I can't get away from 911 or emergency stuff. The main character is an OBGYN, and her love interest is a homicide detective. And this is all based in Austin. And basically, they heal from their traumatic pasts and find love with each other and learn how to heal and grow from those things. And the short film that I'm working on is basically it's about mental health presented in the Black community and just people of color and how we. Something I've noticed in my years as a first responder is that code switching is hard. It's hard for people to understand different cultures and how they react to emergency
Hmm.
situations. All they see is panic or anger, and I'm like, hold on, they're just anxious. You got to calm down and take yourself out of the situation. And so I'm doing a short film that's going to represent those people. And just show what mental health looks like overall because it's a huge spectrum. It's just not an umbrella
Hmm.
word, and it's not just a one thing that we all present with. Personally, I am diagnosed with bipolar 2 and OCD and PTSD, and so I wanted to display those things in a film, which I'm still working on, so that I can show the community what that looks like. Because some people think, oh, you're not high functioning because you have those things, and it's like, no, I'm very high functioning. I just have my moments. Um, so yeah, that's what I
Wow.
do when I'm working on.
So, and then to back up a little bit, because I remember you saying after the call was over, you did something that I think was incredibly healthy. You went to reset, and you did so in a healthy way. You didn't go on a bender. You didn't, spiral out, or, some people they come off of something like that and you hear it all the time. I need a drink. I'm going to go do XYZ to come down from this. And there are healthy ways to shed the stress. And I just remember you went to, was it Decker?
I went to the lake in Travis County. It's called
Mm.
Bob Wentz Park. And the lake is really nice, very pretty. And I was like, I'm just gonna. I literally drove straight there, and I just watched the sun and people in the water, and it felt good. It was windy that day. It was nice.
A healthy way to decompress.
Yeah.
I
So,
think that's amazing.
like, how, I guess, long after the call do you think that it kind of affected you for until you were able to kind of process it? Because it's a long call, and that's a huge
Hmm.
dump of trauma, especially since it was such a emotionally difficult call that you said that you resonated with in a lot of ways.
So my body responds to trauma extremely slow. It didn't resonate. Like I felt the sadness, but it didn't really like I went on with my day. I was just like, oh, okay, she's safe, we're good. I can rest. It took a couple of weeks to really hit me and say, oh wow. I spoke to a woman who was on the verge of ending her life for 4 hours. It took a minute, and when it did resonate, I cried so much. Me and my therapist had a conversation. I was like, I was thinking about the what ifs, like what if I didn't do the right
Hmm.
thing? What if my training didn't kick in? What if my training wasn't enough? Um, and so that it took a minute to hit me. And at that time, right before I left, because that was my last overtime day, I was on FMLA for a week for my bipolar stuff, the just the meds. And so I already felt like in my mind I was shutting down. I needed a break from everything. And so I was like, oh, this is a lot. Like I took on a lot more of her burden and plus my own stuff. So like it really hit me for a while after maybe a week or two.
Yeah, and I guess I asked that because I think a lot of people hesitate to take a career as a like a 911 emergency communicator or a dispatcher because of just that particular fear of I'm going to get this call
Hmm.
that's going to be, you know, horrendous and it's going to be 4 hours long and it's going to scar me for life and I'm never going to recover from that and like I don't know if I can do that. And so I think it's really helpful to kind of discuss it because you kind of lived what is a lot of people's nightmare scenarios before they go into the job, and so to see that you're
Absolutely.
yeah to see that you're still happy and I guess happy, healthy,
I'm happy.
and relatively sane. I mean, given the three people on this particular discussion, you're doing pretty well, I would say.
You're pretty good, yeah, because we got us well enough.
Yeah. Um, I don't think, don't get me wrong, if you're doing anything first responder wise, you're gonna see something that comes with the course. If you don't want to see anything bad or hear anything bad, don't do it. It's just not the career for you. But having a support system, having those therapists, having your psychiatrist align, having your friends and family are like a hobby, you will be okay. Like in
Yeah,
my opinion, in my experience, because I've seen dead bodies, I've seen brain matter, I've had those calls where they're like, I'm killing myself right now, get somebody here, heard them die on the phone. I've seen it all. I've been through it all. And having that support system, if you don't have a support system and it's just you, yourself, and I, and you're one of those people that's like, I don't need anybody, you're more than likely going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely in a long haul. And it's going to come out in the worst ways possible. You're going to find yourself short tempered with the callers. You're going to find yourself irritable with your coworkers. You have to take care of yourself. And it's not just even a support system like going to the gym, making sure you get your vitamins. Like overall, you have to take care of yourself if this is a career that you want to do in the long haul. Um, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
well
because
said.
you've been doing, between EMS and, police dispatching, like you've been doing that for 5 years since 2020, which has probably been like five of the easiest year. Oh, wait. Five of the hardest years, actually. Let me just check my notes. To kind
Gary.
of be in that profession. And so I think it's really great that you still have, like, a drive and a passion to do it. So do you feel like this call, I don't know, reinvigorated your desire to help people, or do you feel like that it kind of strained it and like you needed time away from it, or like how did that career wise affect you?
Well, in the short term, I was like, I need a break. because just a week before that, I got a bad call. And I was like, oh no. Like, you know how they say you have a dark cloud sometimes when you're a first responder and you get nothing but
Mhm.
bad calls for a while? That's how I felt. I was like, no,
Mhm.
like, I need a break. But coming back and hearing that she was doing okay, it it just sparked my passion even more because I love helping people. I'm extremely empathetic and sympathetic. That's one of my gifts from God. I truly believe that. And so it just made me want to help people more. And it just brought this fresh mind. The burnout I was feeling, it kind of dissipated. And I was like,
Nice.
okay, I feel good. Like I'm actually helping people. I'm making a change. And tone matters. If I'm nice, 9 times out of the 10, a caller, even if they don't say it, they appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Nice.
was like, I feel good about what I
Yeah, and I think
Well
that
said.
yeah, I think that's very interesting as well because on the show I've said before, and I think Eric has said as well, like the ice day or the ice week that we had back in 2021 was a real challenge
Mhm.
for us. But I think it really reinvigorated people because we felt like we were useful, like we were doing something. And it kind of sounds like you're saying the same thing for this call. Like you had a lot of burnout. I mean, you're working, 20 hours of overtime a week. I don't know where that burnout would have come from, but, we'll just hypothesize about that. But like having this particular type of call where you were really needed, where you really had to rely on all of your skill sets, it helped you have a rebirth, a renaissance, as it were, of your passion in the job.
Yeah, it definitely did, especially when you're getting a bunch of priority two and lower calls a lot, and it's like trespass call after trespass call, alarm calls. It's like I just feel like a regular call taker. Like I'm not helping anybody seriously, and so when you get those
Mhm.
calls, you feel good, and it's like my skills are still there. I actually helped somebody. I helped the officers, and I did my job. Like it feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know, like how could I guess other people that may be feeling that burnout without, you know, because it is nice during those big tragedies because everybody gets to help and is involved, or like you have a long complicated call, but we don't necessarily want to hope for those, of course. So how can we like help people keep that burnout at bay?
I think it just depends on the person how they release that stress. I think you have to go back to the roots of why you chose the career that you chose. And because any first responder, especially the ones who've been here for 20, 30 years, they'll tell you 90% of the job is non-emergencies. Only
Mhm.
10% of it is real emergencies. And when you let those statistics sit within you, then you realize my time will come and it's not right now. And so, but if you're only focused on trauma calls, trauma calls, trauma calls, you need to probably, I don't know, not say find a different career, but I don't know. I don't know, work with a cleanup crew who cleans the dead bodies and homicide means if that's what you're looking for, because 90% of the time it's an old lady who fell in a shower and she needs a lift assist. It's a trespass call, it's alarm
Yeah.
companies, it's kids prank calling. And so you have to remember the root of why you signed up for what you signed up for. And also just make sure you're prepared when that time comes. Because you will have your time and it might be at 2 o'clock in the morning on a random Wednesday, or it might be at 10 a.m. on a random Tuesday. You just never know.
Yeah.
Abs-
Well said.
yeah, absolutely. You sign up
Well
thinking,
said.
oh, 4 hours of easy overtime, but nope, not that at all.
This is gonna be cake.
Yep.
Not. My takeaway is your training kicked in when it was supposed to kick in. And we tell people that all the time when they say, I could never do that. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, your training did kick in and you remembered the things you needed to remember when it was time, even though, like you said, the vast majority of your calls throughout your career are nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was time, you were available, you were ready to do what you needed to do.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate Nastasia coming on and helping to share her story and her insights about her career and the call that she's she took and she won the award for. And we hope that
Yes.
if you guys have any calls like this or that have kind of stuck with you or that have been exceptional, you'll be able to reach out to us by email or leave a comment down below and let us know, because we'd love to hear about them and see what is kind of going on in y'all's world. But
Yep.
so we thank you, Nastasia, for joining us. And from all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
I'm Erica.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.